Now, since we're working concurrently with the designers, we don't know what's going to happen next, but we do know that we are going to need some kind of feature to trap these batteries, right? We're going to need somewhere for the batteries to go. So we can add that next. So let's hide these screw bosses that we just created, just so those are visually out of the way. And I'm actually going to hide the housing surface as well. So we're just left with these interior components. And go to my front plane, and that is, once again, the front plane of this bottom housing, not the front plane of the assembly or anything like that. Create a sketch right there on the front plane, and I'm going to grab a rectangle, shoot a rectangle right around these guys, and grab a center line, and put that center line at the midpoints of this, right down the middle, so this is centered, just like that. I'm going to grab, let's grab the right plane of our part and control click this center line and make those collinear. That way these things are, it'll be symmetrical. So I can drag this in and out, both sides move. And I'm going to move this so that the edges almost touch the batteries. Now, if you'll recall, those batteries are pretty arbitrarily placed. We could move them. But for now, I'm just going to assume they're in a good position and leave them there, just to kind of keep things clean and simple. Now, let's just exit this sketch. And I'm going to extrude this feature as an extruded boss. And in direction 1, let's do mid-plane, so it goes both directions. And then I'm just going to drag this out so that it's a little bit longer than our batteries, right? Something like that. And we would probably, like I said, we would dimension the heck out of this if we were doing it for real, but we don't need to. Exit that. And now I'm going to, first of all, fillet the top of this by this diameter of our batteries. But I don't know how big that is, right? I don't know what size this needs to be. So let's hide this body for a second and just measure our batteries. And we do that with the measure tool. So you go up to Tools, Measure, and then I'll just click on one of these edges. And that's going to give me a diameter. You can see my diameter is 10 millimeters, and that is exactly how big I want for this thing to be. So let's go back out to our boss extrude and show that. We'll grab our fillet tool, and I'll put a 10 millimeter fillet on both sides of this, and the 10 millimeters is actually a radius in this case. So let's set that to 5. Hit OK. And I'm pretty sure that's going to fit. Let's right-click on this guy and go down to Change Transparency, and we should see it through there. Yeah, that fits pretty well. Excellent. Next, let's round off the front and back edges. I'll grab my fillet tool, and I'm going to round this front edge and this back edge, let's say by 1 millimeter. So it's just got a little bit of a round there. And let's go back here. First of all, let's right-click this guy and change its transparency back to opaque. Also, in my tree, let's hide that component for a second, those components. So we're just looking at our object here. And really what I want is the opposite of what I have here. So I'm about to do some ninjutsu that's a little bit weird, okay? So bear with me for a second. I'm going to go to my Surfaces tab and say Delete Face. That'll let me delete this bottom face, and I'm just going to say under Options, Delete. Not Delete and Patch, not Delete and Fill, but Delete. Hit OK. And now we're left with just a surface, and that surface represents what's going to hold our batteries. And then I can thicken that using the Surfaces tools, Thicken. I'll thicken this surface. I'm going to thicken it outward by 1.5 millimeters and hit OK. Now I have a solid block here that represents what's going to hold our batteries. I'll show my components for a second here. So our batteries are now contained inside of this solid block. And also, we have all these handy-dandy screw bosses ready to use. So we're making some progress here. Let's show this housing surface. And this is starting to look like a housing.